Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of the original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved mysteries.
Babe, I have a weird but positive side effect from starting our true crime podcast.
Okay, I'm ready.
You ready for it?
Always ready.
I have actually been introduced to a ton of really great other independent true crime podcasts. And I think, like most people, I definitely had a podcast rut where I was stuck into it. You don't understand because you're not a true crime person.
No.
But for everyone else, I'd like to share one of these other independent podcasts that I have found that I truly enjoy.
Hello, my name is Chrissy Champagne. I am the host and creator of Residue, a true crime podcast dedicated to keeping you paranoid. The reason that I say that I want to keep you paranoid is because I'm one of those 80s kids that grew up watching Oprah, Donahue, Sally Jessy Raphael, and what did I learn from those shows? Never go to the second location, always trust your gut, and always stay paranoid. On Residue, I will tell you stories like the 1906 tragic love story of Grace Brown that inspired the classic Hollywood film A Place in the Sun. And speaking of Hollywood, I also tell true tales of cursed film sets. And I'm going to add in some stories about mean girls that are so scary even Regina George would run. But one thing always ties all of these stories together, and that is the loved ones that are left behind. Residue. Something that remains after the main part has been gone or taken. Join me on Residue, where I will tell you horrific true tales that will teach you to always keep one eye open. Stay paranoid.
Okay, so we've got 4 stories today to tell everybody about.
Sure do.
Season 2, episode 11.
This was a long episode in the making. It's taken us a while to get
I will
to.
say, how many times have we been like, okay, we're going to record, and we literally are on the verge of setting everything up, and then life happens.
Yeah, this has been a while to get it. We've been working on this one at least a week and a half.
Which is significantly longer than we normally spend. Yeah.
And it wasn't all me. It was even you. You even had a hard time getting your notes all together. Honestly.
I did have a hard time getting all my notes together.
It's usually me. I wait till the last minute because it's a chore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really have to psych myself up to get to watch and to take notes and to dive in.
Yeah.
I actually like the diving in, the doing the research.
You like the research part of it.
Yeah, I like that. But because I was like finding new things about it that they don't tell you, that I feel like I accomplished something because
you contributed.
Well, because I found something that they didn't, you know. Even though I'm 30 years behind.
And then technically you're not even the original person that found it. Someone found it and put it on an article or in some sort of format that
That's all right. I've been piggybacking off everybody my whole life.
That's why we give credit in the show notes to things.
All right. Sorry. I got distracted.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah, we'll see how this episode plays out because
I do have just fair warning to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Sierra's going to have a lot of opinions about this one. There's the 2 that you are covering are a little on the wild side.
They are.
And
to be fair, each of them could be their own episode.
Absolutely.
Themselves.
We'll have to check ourselves to not get too far down the rabbit hole on both of those, but they are wild.
Yeah. I thought you were going to give fair warning. Ben took our boys camping last night. And he's running on right now a couple hours of sleep.
I am only
and you guys, we live in Arizona. It's been in the hundreds. And it snowed on them last night.
Yeah, we took them up onto the mountain. And we didn't sleep good. It was awful.
That's
And
what
my
I thought your
son-
fair warning was going to be
No.
about.
My youngest son wakes me up. Yeah, I was kind of awake, but he at 5 a.m. goes, "Dad, it's snowing." I said, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yeah. So with all of that going on, we will jump into today's
Go
episode.
for it.
So the very first story that we are told is labeled as an unexplained death. On the evening of February 4th, 1986, 21-year-old Rhianne Moser arrived home at the home of her ex-boyfriend. According to the ex-boyfriend, after yet another failed attempt of rekindling their romance, she threatened to take her own life. According to him, and him alone, this was a common behavior of hers. When he refused to take her back, she took a rifle and took her own life.
No, not a rifle.
A shotgun.
Yeah.
Okay. Clarification. I saw in multiple sources it said as a rifle, and in others it was a shotgun.
Well,
It is a long.
very
I
different
understand
things.
that. And hey, this is literally, you guys, one of the reasons we're going to find out that this is a problem is that no investigation was done. Nothing was documented. Nothing. So.
I see. And in the episode, I didn't do any research, but in the episode, they say shotgun.
They do.
The whole time.
The whole time. And in my research, I found that there was multiple reports that it was a rifle.
Okay.
So it is some sort of long barrel gun. How about that? Okay. So here's the thing, Ben. That's a fair question. And here's the thing. This type of weapon is going to be important in a few minutes. We're going to find out. So, so they'd found that she was dead with a shotgun wound to her chest. So again, literally in the same report, it said a rifle and with a shotgun wound to her chest, which again leaves two very different styles of wounds in a body. The shotgun was found laying on the trunk of the ex-boyfriend's car. They found no evidence of foul play. Just let that sink in for a minute. And her death was ruled a suicide. However, Rhianne's parents believe that there was considerable evidence to prove that this was more likely a murder, and tried to persuade the police to have some sort of investigation. Rhianne was a waitress who lived with her parents at the time. She had recently taken a test that entitled her to enlist in the Navy, where she'd hoped to study radiology. Her parents did not believe that she would take her own life. She had a bright future ahead, and when looking at police reports, they found evidence that disputed the official ruling. This is going to be my own personal caveat real quick. There are no perfect signs to tell if someone is about to take their own life. We know a lot more now about suicide and suicide ideation and mental health than we did in the 80s. But again, that doesn't take away that her parents did not see any normal, or I guess as much as you can call normal, red flags or warning signs that their daughter was struggling with any mental health issues. Yeah. At least according to the episode of Unsolved Mysteries. So Rhianne's car was parked directly across the street from where she had died. The driver's door was open, music was blaring from the car stereo, and her keys were still in the ignition. It appeared that she had gotten in her car to leave in a hurry. Also, her parents believed that if she had shot herself with a shotgun, it is likely that the gun would have fallen next to her body instead of sitting on the trunk of the car. Rhianne's arms measured 29 inches. And I found in a further report that was from shoulder to fingertip, just for clarification, was 29 inches. However, the distance from the trigger to the muzzle was 36.5 inches. Her parents, now they did a test in their own house, so this wouldn't be admissible in a court, but her parents tested with a broomstick in place of a gun, and Rianne's mother, whose arms were about the same length as her daughter, was unable to reach the point where the trigger would have been. Do you have any thoughts on just that information right there?
Obviously, I have to see. I'd have to see all of it, because where's the wound? So if you put the muzzle like on your chest, you could kind of cockeye your body and get longer than just your 29. Obviously, if you're trying to do it straight. So, but if the wound is directly in the middle of her chest, because what I'm saying is, if you put it up, because they're saying she put it up against her body, reached and pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Which, first off, who does that? This is going to sound terrible, but most people do kill themselves with shotguns, and it's usually to the head, and they use their foot, and that's awful. It's terrible, and don't want to put that image out there. But I'm just saying. But I don't know.
At the bare minimum,
so I don't know all
this required at least a little bit of investigation. Just that simple fact that, hey, we've got a female who appears to have possibly taken her own life. However, the simple physics of reaching the trigger and where that is, maybe we should do just a smidge of investigation.
That is where my frustration is, and that is what police officer or agency shows up. A girl is lying dead on the road with a shotgun blast to her chest. That's what they say. It's to her chest. It's to her body.
Yeah.
Okay. And the weapon is on the trunk. And I guess what I'm saying is, what led you to believe that this was suicide? How do you at least not have some questions?
Yeah.
Enough questions to say, hey, man, let's dig into it a little bit before we just rule that. How it was ruled a suicide so quickly is the biggest baffling thing to me.
And so I will say, I did a little bit of research on this because I am a female. I have shorter arms than, I guess your male counterparts. That seems like such an awkward thing to do, uncomfortable. And not that people in desperate situations don't do desperate things. I found one case of a female who took her own life with this same style of manner of suicide. Her husband was actually incarcerated, I believe. I don't know if he had gone all the way to trial, but he was, being held for her death because the investigators at first were like, she couldn't even reach it.
Yeah.
Well, there was a fingerprint on the gun, on the trigger. It did not match the husband. It ended up matching the wife's foot. So she used her foot to pull the trigger. Okay. That is the only, and here's saying not every suicide is obviously entered into public record or X, Y, or Z. But I do want to note that Rianne had her shoes on.
Well, and again, it's sitting on the trunk of the car. There's just a lot of what I'm saying is,
I will say the female that took her own life this way was sitting in a chair. Yeah. Again,
most people that I don't want to do.
We're gonna.
But I'm just saying, that is the thing is, I don't understand how you came to the conclusion of suicide so quickly with an at least not looking at a few things.
Immediately.
That's what I'm saying. At least look at a few
And it was ruled immediately on the word of one person.
Yeah, the guy that would have the most motive to do it.
Exactly.
Her boyfriend.
Yeah. So on the night of her shooting, her parents were told and assured multiple times that an autopsy would be performed. Again, that is standard pro quo for even like normal looking deaths. If someone passes away without a medical person present, the standard is an autopsy, correct? However, 2 weeks later, they discover that, in fact, an autopsy had never even taken place. In fact, it was never even requested by law enforcement. So they had to go through the request of her body to be exhumed and for an autopsy to be performed.
Which you lose a lot.
Yeah.
By waiting that long.
Yes. 100% yes.
Even what the autopsy does find, there's always going to be questions about it because it wasn't done right away.
Yep. According to the autopsy, Ryan was killed by a contact wound to the chest. That was meant that the muzzle of the gun was touching her skin. Powder burns were also found on her left wrist. Medical examiner ruled that this was, in fact, a suicide. Rand's parents decided to contact... Okay, this is no laughing matter. I understand we're telling you a serious story. But this man's name... You guys, I have the sense of humor of a teenage boy.
I don't remember his name.
Dr. Butts.
Butts.
And it's spelled B-U-T-T-S.
B-U-T-T-S. All right, keep going.
He should have gone into proctology. He's a chief. This is the best part too. He's like a chief medical examiner. He's high up, and everyone still has.
Everyone has to take him seriously.
I know. I wouldn't be able to. I'd lose my job immediately.
He probably has a pretty good sense of humor.
He probably does. So he's the chief medical examiner for the state of North Carolina, and his conclusions were much different than the original medical examiner. Dr. Butts determined that the muzzle of the weapon was actually several feet from her body at the time of the shooting. The powder burns on her hands suggested to him that she was actually trying to grab the muzzle of the gun.
Very possible.
Yep. And here's the thing. Again, this should warrant some kind of investigation because you do not have a definitive answer. Due to that information, her cause of death is changed from suicide to pending.
Pending. Seriously.
So her mom goes forth to a grand jury and attempt to get an inquiry about her daughter's death. However, they could only change the ruling on the case if there was a suspect. So the grand jury denies her
investigation. The boyfriend not a suspect?
I don't know. Because he said he didn't do it.
See, and this is what causes conspiracy theories.
100%.
Because you know what the next question people are going to ask?
Who did this kid's parents know? Who did this kid know?
Who is this kid?
Who is this kid?
Is he the son of a police officer? Mm-hmm. Is he a son of a politician?
Yeah. They lived in a very wealthy community.
Is he a son of an extreme wealthy person? And maybe that's unfair. I don't know. But these questions are going to get asked.
And as they should.
Because it appears that you are just trying to make this go away without zero effort.
Yep.
And so then the next logical question is, why?
Why aren't you investigating when a young girl is found in the street with a shotgun blast to her chest? That's your job.
I would say that falls under the purview of a police investigation.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think that's stretching that.
No, not at all. So undeterred, the family contacts Dr. Vincent DeMario, one of the county's top forensic scientists. After examining the evidence, he felt that the police had bungled the investigation and ruled suicide too quickly. He showed that it would be impossible for Rianne to pull the trigger herself and still have the gun pointed directly at her chest, just kind of like you said. Despite the testimony from this man, the request for an investigation was denied.
Again,
This
why?
seems like they are digging in their heels. And again, why? So next we hear from a ballistics expert who looks into the possibility, could have this been an accident, that she dropped the gun and it went off? Again, while there are cases of shotguns accidentally misfiring, it is extremely rare. The only one I know of is the guy that was up in the tree, but that was a rifle.
Yeah, and I'm still questionable about that one. I don't know if that really happened the way he says it happened. And it's not because I think he was lying. I think, one, he was traumatized and he probably doesn't really remember.
Fair point.
And the guns just don't go off.
Yeah.
They don't randomly go off.
Yeah. That's it. You can't hang the hat. You cannot decide to not investigate based on someone speculating
if
that.
That's conclusion you're coming to.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, we skipped a lot of steps to get there.
So the next little piece of progress on this case is November 16th, 1988, 3 years after Rianne's death. The cause of death is changed again to, quote, undetermined. However, to this day, an investigation has never been opened.
Again, if you're a police department and you have a death and it is now ruled undetermined, it is your job to find out what happened.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
You
ready for your update?
I am ready. I'm going to guess.
Nothing has happened.
Yeah, shocking.
What is happening in that department to this day? So, unfortunately, her mother has since passed away. However, her father and siblings are still alive and still asking I think it's Norfolk Police Department to open up an investigation on this. Now, I don't think there's any way they're going to solve it because you didn't do jack skiddly squat at the beginning. There's no pictures. Nothing was taken into evidence. There's nothing to go off of, but you could at least try to give some attention to the fact that I'm going to put some effort into this and at least open an investigation. That is the bare minimum here. Yeah, I'm fired up.
I knew you would.
Yeah. Also, do you know what I could never find because the cops never once tried to figure it out?
Who her boyfriend was?
That name is nowhere to be found.
Which again raises more conspiracy theories.
2, there is not a single shred of evidence as to who owned this gun.
That's the other question I have.
Who was this gun registered to?
If it's his gun.
Yes.
How do you not say, well, how did she get your gun? And why is your gun out here on the hood of your car, on the trunk of your car?
In front of your house.
With a girl lying dead with a shotgun blast in her chest.
Yep.
Was
the boyfriend's hand swabbed for gunpowder residue? We don't know.
All things that could have been done within an hour of being there.
An autopsy, finding out who owned the gun, and swabbing for residue. Those 3 things.
And just questioning him, getting his name, taking an official statement.
Yeah. To this day, not a single ounce of energy has put into even opening a question. Like, here's the thing. Even at this point, how come there has not been an evidence open as to why they didn't investigate it?
All great questions. And I guess if the state medical examiner, how did that not carry weight? That's
what I would like to know. And then a state forensics, like a highly trusted and respected forensics person comes into play as well. Yeah. To me, the fact that it is like.
Did they ever sue the department?
So I actually looked into that. I cannot find any evidence, but I don't think at the time you had the ability to file a civil lawsuit in wrongful death like you can now. So today, the family could have either sued the department or sued the boyfriend for wrongful death and then present all the evidence. Even if anything happens of it, then it's all in court record.
I mean, they can't. I know you can sue them for the wrongful death, but at least negligence. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm usually not the first person to jump on a cover-up bandwagon. It takes too many players.
Yeah, I'm not a big. Here's the thing. I've said it before. I love conspiracies, but I'm not a big believer in them because most of them are just too far fetched.
Yeah,
they're too crazy to actually be true. I mean,
but cover-ups do happen. The Gilgo Beach documentary we just watched. We saw the cover. Like they do, unfortunately, happen.
But they usually fall apart.
Yeah, but that's because you have people looking into it. And back then, there was no Facebook, no social media, no nothing to bring more highlights to the fact that this family is screaming for help.
And I mean,
and they're being ignored.
They did the best thing they could have gone to Unsolved Mysteries. I think now that whole department got at least a bunch of bad publicity, but I don't. Clearly, it did make a difference.
Yeah, I know. I think I might place a phone call and just ask why hasn't this? Here's the thing. At the end of the day, what is police protocol in that jurisdiction when someone's death is determined to be undetermined? Because here's me. If there is a standard protocol at that point, then they at least owe that much to this family.
Yeah, but I mean, anyone that's in that department now, I mean, you're talking 40
Yeah, but that's why you have cold case
ago.
Investigators.
So, I don't know. Crazy story.
It is a crazy story.
All right. Is that it? Any
That's
more?
it. That's all I have for you on that. I mean, I think everyone else that listens to this can be just as angry as I am.
I'm sure they are. All right. Are you ready for a little bit lighter of a story?
Yes, please.
All right. We got the story of Ed Barbera. Yep. Ed
Barbera?
Yep. He was a San Francisco furniture salesman. I guess he was well known. He's like, you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
The Scott Lehman guy that we hear on the radio around
here.
Yeah. At least that's how they portray him, that he's always on
He's kind of a local cult classic. Everyone knows his jingles. Yeah. Everyone listening has some radio or TV ad that they remember hearing nonstop. And you're like, this guy is so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shane Company guy growing up in Portland.
Shane Company. Yeah.
But he had a bunch of TV ads, and I guess he always ended his TV ads. Did you see how he ended it?
Yeah, that was creepy.
It was creepy.
That was red flags.
He just looks at the camera and goes, "Bye, kids."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
That was weird.
All right. So he does well in the furniture business in San Francisco. So you know what he decides to do?
What?
He decides to buy a gold mine in New Mexico. It's called Golden Gulch.
And how successful was this gold mine?
It's never found gold. But
here's the thing. Whoever sold that gold mine to this guy, never having found an ounce of gold on their gold mine, that person is the real genius of this story.
Well, I did read later he only bought like a portion of it.
Oh,
there was multiple investors.
Okay.
I think this was all a scam. This is a story of a scam.
Yeah.
And this was all a scam from the beginning. But in doing that, I guess here's the thing. It gets a little confusing, but he starts this company. It's the holding company of the mine. It's called Dynapack. All right. So he says, listen, I know this mine's never found gold. Okay. But I have a secret. Okay. I have a secret processing technique that will find the gold.
It doesn't just find the gold. It literally.
I'm just telling you, if someone tells you they got a secret
technique. It's like me going through my dustbin and the vacuum cleaner telling you I'm going to find gold out of there. If these people are willing to buy that, I will sell them.
Can't tell you how I do it. It's
can't tell you how I do it, but I can vacuum my carpet, and you know what happens? Gold comes out.
But trust me, I'll find gold. And if you trust my secret processing, we're going to be rich together. So he promises $93 million worth of gold in the first year. Okay. So this Dynapack starts selling shares. And I guess they said it got real big. A lot of people started buying shares because a prominent lawyer named Melvin Belli, he signed a letter talking about how awesome this guy is and their secret processing. I don't know who this guy is, and I don't care. Anyone that says I'm an attorney and you should listen to me, go the other way. Just little word of advice. So within months, Dynapac's value quadrupled, and then it quadrupled again.
Quadruples for?
Yep. They'd sold like 17 million shares. They said at one point this Barbera was worth $136 million.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
Okay. But because the shares had grown so much so fast, the SEC comes in and they suspend trading because they're thinking, hey, this is going up too fast. This might be something.
This might be a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, because the SEC steps in and suspends trading, guess what happens to the stock?
It crashes.
It plummets. So Barbera's trying to, hey, listen, I promise my secret thing is
super pinky promise.
So he invited a bunch of financial investors and investigators, whatever, to tour his thing.
This man knew how to play to rich people.
Well, he's a salesman.
Uh-huh.
You know, and
there's a sucker born every minute, and we're gonna take them for all they're worth.
He's got them there. He does commercials, so he knows how to present stuff and advertise it, whatever. I don't know. But
you know what makes me mad? This man is worth $1 bazillion trillion, and I just want our podcast to be worth $500.
$1.
And he's annoying and gross and petty and okay.
Which they say he's worth 136. That doesn't mean he has that in cash.
I understand that I understand how his.
But you want to be worth $136 million.
I would like to be worth $100 at this point.
You are worth millions of dollars to me, my love. All right. You ready to get back into this?
Yes, I just don't understand why scam people keep getting richer, and the people that are actually working are just trying to get by. It makes me mad, but I guess that's why they're called scams.
All right. So they do a presentation of pouring a pyramid of gold. And they show this pyramid.
You guys, this pyramid.
I know. And it's supposedly this one pyramid's worth $150,000.
It looks like a kid's art project.
It does. But they pour this and it's this big show and everyone's, oh, wow, amazed. And
these investors are drooling over this. They're getting pictures taken with it and some pay cop by the hour.
No, those were fake. That was fake. That was all the reenactment. Because you notice the guy playing him is the guy in the pictures.
I don't know. I guarantee there is some truth behind this. Because he said that they did bring them. They put VIP, guys, on their hard hats. And
of course it is.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
All right. So guess what happens? The SEC starts allowing trading again. And, but there's some people, we get an investigator from the Attorney General's office in New Mexico, and he's like, dude, this guy's he doesn't believe it. We don't know
what it is yet, but this is not legit.
He ends up actually, I think he's the one, he sends out the New Mexico Bureau of Mine and Mineral Resources. I didn't even know that was a thing, but he sends them out to investigate this mine, and they start pulling samples, and they start pulling samples from his mine, dude, there's no gold here. So Ed, you know what? He's like, hey, listen, you guys can't say there's no gold. Clearly, this guy will not give it up. He's been called out multiple times. Won't give it up. So he hires this David Fingato.
Yeah.
He's a geologist to come in and do his own tests and to confirm to the state and to everybody that, hey,
there is gold.
There is gold here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Fingato does a bunch of tests and he finds no gold. And so Fingato actually quits. He's mad. He's like, listen, dude, you're running a scheme. Mm-hmm. And him and
he becomes a whistleblower.
Yeah. Him and Ed get in a fight. He gets tossed off the property. He starts going to the news.
Yeah.
He goes, first he goes to the authorities, like the sheriff and that, and nothing. So he says, fine, I'll go to the news. He does an interview with CNN. Mm-hmm. And that gets aired. Well, 5 days after his interview with CNN gets aired, guess what happens to Fingato? He dies in a car accident.
Yeah.
But that's
very Princess Diane style here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
shortly after that airs, Barbera disappears. Mine is deserted, and
Typical
everyone's money is
gone.
He'd ran his scam for as long as he could run it. Things started imploding, and he's gone. They say that all the investors and everyone that put money in, there was anywhere between $15 to $20 million lost. Turns out that he'd been bribing the sheriff. The sheriff ended up getting arrested and charged with bribery and that. Mm-hmm. So this was a deep-rooted conspiracy. We could use that
here
word.
Again, we just said, like, we don't like to believe that our law enforcement is capable of covering up and looking the other way, and yet
here we go.
Here we are.
So he moves to Canada. I found out in Canada he was running some like furniture business scam. People were paying for furniture that was never getting delivered.
Why didn't he just stick with being a furniture salesman in San Francisco? It sounds like he was doing fairly well for himself.
I don't know. But eventually he crosses the border into Vancouver, Washington, and gets arrested. He is convicted of 12 felony counts of, fraud and all this stuff.
And terrible art projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But between his conviction and his sentencing, he gets put out on bail.
Every time.
Well, guess what happens?
Hey, you have a bunch of
he jumps bail.
Untraceable money. We haven't figured out where you've stashed it yet. So why don't we just let you go?
Let you go. And you've already fled once the country. So, hey, why don't we?
At this point, I'm like, dude, you're asking for it.
Yeah. So he jumps bail. And that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. They say, listen, we're looking for this guy. Yeah. Technically, they've already made the case. They've already convicted him. He just needs to now do his time.
He needs to serve his time
in court. And he was convicted in 1988 or 1989. He purchased that mine, did I say, in 1984. So this went on for several years. He was on the run for a couple of years and then gets caught, gets convicted. They're looking for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Update.
He's dead.
Yep.
So it actually wasn't too long after. I was reading an article. This episode aired in December of 1989. So he jumped by, it was April of 1990.
Okay. So like 18 months later, give or take. No, not even that.
4 or 5 months later.
5 months later. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he'd been convicted already.
Yeah.
He jumped. He'd been on the run for a little while. Not very long. His wife surrenders to, hold on. I might be getting my stories.
I think you might be getting your stories mixed up.
Yeah. No, I'm not getting. In 1990, Barbera's wife, Candace, surrendered to authorities. This is from a news article. And confessed that her husband had died of cancer a few months earlier. He'd been living in Florida under the name Norm Peterson. So, and she actually, which I guess Norm Peterson is from the character from Cheers. Oh. Yeah, he used that name. Anyways, I guess she did bring forth a bunch of documents.
Showing that there was gold.
Showing that he had died, that he was dead. He died in Florida in January of that year. So he didn't live. He died of cancer.
Okay.
So he's dead.
And that's it?
That's it. I mean, really, that's where the story ends in the fact of they'd already made the case. They convicted him. They just wanted him to do his time.
Sometimes karma catches up with you, I guess.
Real quick.
So,
but I am get my next story. The wife comes forward too.
Yeah, I was going to say these two stories are oddly similar in some
and how
ways.
They end.
Yeah,
yeah. That's your story of your scam.
Okay, dokie. Well, before I tell you our next story, I just wanted to invite everyone that is listening to take just a couple of minutes and to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. I actually have a little bit of an incentive for people to do that.
$5.
No, Benjamin. No. I have a sticker, which is better than $5.
I have a pyramid of gold. Did I say that they found out that pyramid was actually 99% like
it literally
else?
Looked like copper that someone painted with like a gold luster dust. Yeah, it was terrible. Anyways, I ordered some merch stickers that I am really excited, you guys. I took our logo and I designed these stickers with our original artwork by our talented friend Evelyn. And I'm really excited. So if anyone hops on to, I think the places you can leave reviews are Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and leaves a 5-star review, grab a screenshot of it and send me a DM or email me at unsolvedcouple and you will get not only a sticker, but an autograph from me and Ben. And you're going to want to hold on to that because at some point that think of this as an investment.
$250,000.
It's going to be worth some money someday. And now you own a little share of the Unsolved Couple podcast history.
Are we selling shares now?
Nope. We're not selling. Yeah. I've got a real good investment for you. So you're going to want to hold on to that sticker and that autographed thank you personal card that Ben will be writing to everybody. And
I already got my stamp signature.
Stamp it. Anyways, and other than that, also find us on all social medias. We are on Unsolved Couple Pod on TikTok and Instagram. We have a discussion group on Facebook, Unsolved Couple Podcast, where you can get on there and chitty chat with us about each episode. Okay, Ben, had you ever heard of this story before?
No, this story is
it wild to you that you had never heard it?
Yeah, I will say.
Because this is
a wild story.
Didn't happen that long ago.
It happened a long time ago.
But the repercussions of it are still happening to this day.
Well, the repercussions of it have been happening since then till now.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you guys, and I would love to know, let me know if this is the first time any of you guys are hearing about this, or if you guys knew about this before.
Or if you were affected by this.
Yeah. Oh, fair point. Because there are people that have been affected by this that are still to this day finding out about it. This is the story of the Tennessee Children's Home Society. From 1924 to 1950, the Tennessee Children's Home Society in Memphis, Tennessee, was a model orphanage. Its director, Georgina Tan, worked diligently to find homes for the children rather than allowing them to live their teenage lives in orphanage. She won a national praise for her progressive approach and single-handedly placed 5,000 orphans, ranging from newborns to teenagers, with new families. But, and there's always a but.
There's always a but. Especially when it comes to unsolved mysteries.
Yep. Her orphanage was not as it appeared. She and almost everybody involved had a very dark side to this story. So now we're going to move over and we're going to meet Cindy Lou Presto. She was adopted from Memphis. Growing up her whole life, she asked her adoptive family numerous times questions about her adoptive her birth family, but never got any answers. After her mother passed away, she was packing up things and found correspondence from the Tennessee Children's Home. She was able to use that and began the search for her birth family. 2 years later, she found her birth name. 2 hours after finding her birth name, she found the birth mother, Evelyn Bridgewater. They were shortly reunited. She learned that she was separated from her birth family in 1947 when she was just 2 years old. She had originally been christened Sandra Lee Bridgewater, but only when she found Evelyn, was she able to piece together the very dark events that led up to her adoption. On the day Cindy was separated from her family, she was playing on a playground when Tan, the lady that owned the orphanage, drove up in her proverbial, and that's unsolved mystery lingo for you, proverbial black limousine. It's always the limos. Tan asked her if she wanted to go for a ride. She ran to Tan, who picked her up and placed her inside her car and then drove away. She had literally been kidnapped by, you guys, Tan at this point is this old, like, very unassuming woman. Yeah. She and several other children were taken to the juvenile court in Memphis, where she was brought before our player number 2 in this, Judge Camille Kelly. Her fate was then completely in the judge's hands. Evelyn had no idea that her daughter at this point had even been kidnapped until she got a call that day from the juvenile court. She was being asked to sign papers for Cindy to be eligible for adoption. The mother refused. Kelly, the judge, overruled the mother, and Cindy was taken away. Can you even imagine?
No. I do have questions.
I know you do. So I'm going to tell you right now. I did a ton of research on this because Unsolved Mysteries only can tell these stories in a short amount of time.
I bet they just scratched the surface.
They did.
Of this.
So the 5,000 children that were basically trafficked through this orphanage were acquired many of ways. There was doctors that had been paid off to tell single mothers and women who were in prison that their babies had passed away in birth. And then they were funneled into this home. Another way is that this woman would drive around in her black limousine, all shiny, and she would travel through parts of Memphis, Tennessee that were known to be extremely impoverished, where a lot of the times they were single or widowed women who the kids were left unattended with older siblings for most of the day because they were working.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then these kids. So, yeah, and again, there was no cell phone, no.
But this lady driving around in her black limousine in these neighborhoods, snatching kids, it's like a villain from.
Yes, this is like a movie. Yes.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is like The Rescuers.
Yeah.
That lady, where she pulls off her eyelashes.
Yes, I know. I hate that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I was watching this, you guys, I am no joke. My jaw is on the floor. Because I was like, what? How did this happen? And she did. She had a very specific, if you had a cute baby, and this little girl they show a picture of was beautiful. She preferred blue eyes and blonde hair. And children that were, the younger the better. Social workers were involved in this scam as well. She had several of those in her pocket where she paid them if they got calls to CPS or whatever the protective services in Memphis were at the time. And they noted that the babies were cute or the children were, could potentially be cleaned up and good looking. They would report that to this woman and she would go take them from the home. Yeah. Yeah. So now let's go to the judge. Because this lady could not do this on her own. Judge Kelly was a well-respected citizen of Memphis. And in 1984, a national poll selected her as one of the 6 most, you guys, wholesome women in the world, along with Queen Elizabeth. This woman was on a platform with Queen Elizabeth.
A baby snatcher.
Yep. Investigating attorney Robert Taylor was certain, however, that Kelly was highly involved in Tan's operation. He did not believe that Tan could have carried this on without her. He also did not believe that Judge Kelly could have lived her very extravagant lifestyle unless she had outside income. For 12 years, Tan used the Tennessee Children's Home Society as a cover for a black market child and baby ring. She allegedly used manipulation, deception, pressure tactics, threats, and brutal force, including kidnapping, to take children away from poor single mother homes in a 5-state area to sell to wealthy parents. However, in 1950, and this is only comes to light, I'll tell you this, a number of doctors resigned in protest because they had actually brought concerns up multiple times. There are records of the death toll amongst infants in Tennessee spiked during the time that this orphanage was in play.
Spiked with?
No, it was because one of the biggest factors was the amount of infant deaths happening inside the orphanage. So doctors were being called in at that point, outside doctors.
Oh, wow.
And raising concerns about the conditions to the state, and no one listened to them. So they full on resigned from practicing in Tennessee over the health standards of this orphanage in specific. So at that point, that's where Taylor comes in, the investigator. Yeah. He was appointed by the Governing Bureau of Investigations to investigate her and the orphanage.
Didn't he report straight to the governor? Isn't that what they said?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you get a bunch of doctors that, anyways, yeah. This goes up the chain of command pretty quickly after that point.
Yeah.
Taylor quickly discovers that a large number of the children were being sent out of state to be adopted by high-end couples, even though there was a long list of couples waiting to adopt inside the state of Tennessee. Tan was ignoring local couples. In order to find out the reason, Taylor followed her and her assistant, Alma Watson, on their next trip to Los Angeles. He determined that her regular practice was to leave at 3 a.m. so that no one would see them, or in the likelihood that the airplanes and the airport would be basically empty.
Can you imagine that airport being empty and a plane being empty nowadays?
No, that doesn't happen anymore. So once arriving and getting settled into a hotel, she would call adoptive parents, have them meet her in the lobby of a fancy hotel. She would come down with the baby. And while she was in the hotel, a maid stayed with the rest of the children. After talking to them for a few minutes, they'd sign up paperwork, get the last payment, and leave. This would go back and forth all day long until all of the children were given away. Taylor discovered that Tan had placed over 1,200 babies for adoption in New York and Los Angeles alone. I found these children were adopted to several famous people in that time too throughout Los Angeles.
I'm sure.
Yeah. He also discovered that she increased revenue by charging childless couples a fee to conduct background investigations in preparation for the adoption that never obviously took place. Over the 20 years she had been operating in this black market, she had made a fortune. In total, she made over $1 million.
Which is a lot.
Adjusted for inflation, Ben?
I can only imagine.
$13 million. With all of her ill-gained profits, she bought a vast amount of property all over Memphis, Tennessee, along with a large tourist court, I don't even know what that is, in Mississippi, and a summer home along the Gulf Coast. Beautiful location. I love the Gulf Coast. On September 12th, 1950, Taylor presented his reports to the governor. Unfortunately, 3 days after the report is filed with the governor, Tan dies of cancer. So she,
No.
karma, I guess, but never serves an ounce. I can only hope, and I wouldn't wish this on many people. I hope that that cancer was so painful and so miserable and so uncomfortable for her. And I hope she knew deep down that that cancer started because she was rotted from the inside out from being such a terrible human being. Under the pressure from the continued investigation, Judge Kelly resigns. No further information if she's ever really held liable for anything.
I was going to say, does she ever, like...
It doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't know if because of I don't know. It seems as if they shut this down very quickly, but then there was never any justice for any of these families.
Yeah.
The Tennessee Children's Home for Society was closed. Tan's death prior to prosecution led to more stringent laws in adoption in Tennessee. Cindy, along with the others who have been victimized by Tan's operation, are very upset as to what has happened to them. She especially feels that she missed out on years with her birth family. Fewer than 10% of the stolen children were ever reunited with their parents or siblings due to the complexity of local and state officials such as Kelly and manipulation and destruction of records of adopted children.
But the records are garbage back then.
Okay. So Unsolved Mysteries goes on to give us a few people that they're looking to reunite, X, Y, or Z. And that's kind of where that's the mystery of this.
The mystery is if you have a tie to this, hey, maybe reach out. Maybe we can find families.
And per Unsolved
families.
Mysteries and from the updates I can find, several people are reunited with either siblings or parents. But to this day, up until now, still very little of these have been ever solved, I guess.
Yeah, but if you were 2 years old, you're not going to really remember. You're kidnapped.
No, and it seems as if, so we have family who have been blessed with being able to adopt. Adoption is an amazing, beautiful thing. It is very complicated, and it has a lot of paperwork. And back then, and I'm guessing they used this to manipulate the court system, closed adoptions are closed. Period. End of story. There is no, if you are a child and you have a closed adoption, those records are sealed. You, even as the child, cannot look up and find out hardly anything. With that said, it seems that this actually overturned, at least in Tennessee, giving adult adopted children the right to have access to at least what the state has. Now, I don't know how in depth those records are, but this was caused that these people are entitled to this. And I'm assuming, and from what I read, that was, I supported and agree with it, but there was a lot of people that were really concerned that they had placed children for adoption and it was closed. And that was, they were told that it is a very complex, complicated issue.
Situation.
What, honey?
It's a sticky situation.
Yeah, 100%. So, a couple of weird things I found. So I was like, to me, what made this woman? And not that we can answer why people are monsters, but this is a little bit more than just your typical bad person.
Yeah.
Right?
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
Yeah.
What happened? And so I did a little research on this woman.
Okay.
So she was born to a wealthy family who her dad was a judge. And she wanted to practice law. And he told her that because she was a woman, there was a place for her practicing law. She needed to go into social work. Okay. So she went into social work, I believe in Texas, and adopted a child and adopted an adult female. Do you have any idea why a woman would have adopted an adult female so she could cohabitate with her at the time?
Lovers?
They were lovers. So, and then her and their adopted child and her adopted adult, whatever she was, moved to Tennessee because her father arranged for her to be on the board of this orphanage. She very quickly manipulated and bullied and took over and made herself the primary executive and controlled the whole orphanage very quickly. This woman from the get-go seems as if she did not give two shizzity bobs about anyone but herself and knew how to manipulate the system.
Yeah, but it doesn't explain like what makes someone decide to all of a sudden just go out and start kidnapping kids. Like that's a switch that flips.
I think she was an angry woman. I think she was angry that she couldn't be with her girlfriend. I think she was angry that her dad told her she couldn't go into law. And not to say that that justifies anyone's behavior, but I think that anger grew. And I think she enjoyed having power and control and coercion over the things that she could. She obviously had no conscience. Who steals children?
Monsters.
That and the King and Queen on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Remember that movie?
No, not really.
They didn't like children. They thought children were gross. They freaked them out. Anyways, that's the story. I never heard of this story before. I thought it was wild.
It was a wild.
You could do an entire episode, if not a whole season, on.
It was wild.
It was wild. All right, what do you have for us, Benjamin?
All right, I got a cop killer.
A cop killer.
I know it's a sad story. All right, this happens. This takes place in Saxtonburg, Pennsylvania. The police chief, Greg Adams, 31 years old, he heads out on December 4th, 1980, and he's out on patrol. And around 2:50 p.m., there's a boy in his room, and he hears like yelling and screaming. Then he hears what he thinks is a bunch of gunfire. Goes downstairs, tells his mom, "Hey, I think I just heard
gunshots."
And this is a small town. Nothing really happens there, so she doesn't really believe it. She's like, "What are you talking about?"
If our son came out of his room and said that, I'd be like, I don't think so.
Yeah. But her name is Midge. She goes out to the front porch and she thinks she sees something in the bushes and goes over and she finds a body. And he's all bloodied and he's dying. Mm-hmm. Not quite dead. It's Greg. And he says to her, "Help me. I've been shot."
This breaks my heart.
Yeah. She asks who did this, and he says, "I don't know." She said,
"This is such a small town that she knew who this man was. She knew who this cop was."
Everyone knew this guy.
Yeah.
Because the police force was not very big.
Mm-mm.
And he's the police chief.
Yeah.
She says she looks up and she sees a white car driving away, but she can't see who is in. Okay. So, of course, police are called. State police show up. They go and right by her place, I guess it's a feed store. And in the parking lot, they find Greg's cruiser. And they're searching now for clues. And guess what they find? They find a driver's license on the ground. Just laying there.
Whoopsie daisy.
And the driver's license is named Stanley J. Portis. They also found a gun that was left behind. It was empty. But no serial number. Been scratched off. So that's pretty much the only clues they find.
Yeah, they have almost nothing at this point.
Yeah. So they track down, I mean, obviously they do have a driver's license, right? But guess what? Stanley J. Portis, he's been dead for 32 years. Yep.
Yeah.
They find his grave in Massachusetts.
I'm sure the cops were like, "Gosh darn it."
But they say this very quickly, but they find out, and I'm going to guess because he was using that name is tied to a female who was Stanley J. Portis' wife. But that woman was also tied to another man being married by the name of Donald Eugene Webb. I'm going to guess Donald married his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Then he started doing crime, changed his name, but still somehow used that name
he
to
forgot
also
to get around to changing the marriage certificate or falsifying those records.
But then when he was using his fake name, still had his fake name tied to his original wife, wife was tied to his real name.
Yeah, that's a clerical error right there.
But they say Webb, and when they start, he's pretty well known up in Massachusetts in that area. He's part of what's called the Fall River Gang. I didn't know that a gang was still a thing, like the Jesse James and the.
Have you seen West Side Stories?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're supposedly a gang. They go around and they rob stores and homes.
Mm-hmm.
So Webb had been visiting a jewelry store the day prior in, what did I say? Sextonburg, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And they think he was casing that jewelry store
the joint
to rob it. The next day, they say that Adams, the police chief, had left the station at 1:45. There was a witness that said they saw Adams, I guess they were like at an intersection. A white Mercury cougar. I know you love cougars.
No, I think you love cougars.
Blows a stop sign. And they say they saw Adams flip a U and go after him.
Okay.
That was it.
All right, so this was a routine traffic stop.
So it appears that he sees this cougar blow a stop sign. He goes to...
saying that sentence today has so much more of a meaning to it. I saw a cougar flip a U.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the cougar didn't flip a U.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So what they speculate is this guy, Donald Eugene Webb, pulls into the feed store. Adam sees him. He pulls up and kind of blocks him in. Gets out.
Did this make your anxiety go up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate traffic stops.
Yeah.
They're so unpredictable.
It is one of the most dangerous.
I hate them.
Things, and he came in backwards to the way you're supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously approaching from the front is a terrible
even more
idea.
Dangerous. Yeah,
but obviously, like this is just kind of the cards he's been dealt.
Yeah,
right. He's trying to make sure, because it appears this guy went fast and then pulled into a parking lot to kind of try to get away to not get pulled over. So he already knows he does not want law enforcement interacting. So yeah, he approaches from the front. It appears that he asks him for his driver's license because he got it. Mm-hmm. And then it looks like he pulls a gun and shoots him. What they think happened is he shoots him twice. They struggle. And Adams pulls his gun. They struggle over his gun. And they fire all the rounds in the gun. Finally, they end up in the bushes in Midge's yard. And he gets his gun. There's no bullets left. So he beats him with his own gun. Yeah, that's terrible. And then leaves him there to die. Mm-hmm. So he escapes. They know who Donald Eugene Webb is. He's on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. And yeah. I said this was that's the mystery, is not that who killed this cop. So they now pretty much know this is the guy we're looking for. We want to find him. Can you help us find him? They show pictures of him. Ready for your update. Yep. Wild update. Okay. Dude, karma is coming for everybody in this story. Well, not really. So this happened in 1980. This airs in 1989. This guy's been on the run for almost 10 years. Okay. I didn't realize that there was such a long gap between. Yeah. Okay. But he's been on the FBI's wanted list for a long time. Okay. Okay. In 2017, his wife comes to the police and says, "Hey, I'll cut you a deal. I know where Donald Eugene Webb is, but I don't want to get prosecuted. But I don't want to get in trouble. And on top of it, for how he got there or where he is. On top of it, she was asking that she couldn't get sued or any liability from the family because his wife is still alive, at least at that time. Yeah. So it turns out she'd built a secret
hidden room
in their house.
I would love to see if this house has ever been listed
And
for sale.
he
And if there are
lived
pictures
there for 20 years in the basement. And actually, from what I read a different article. There was they owned 2 houses, and she had a secret room built in both houses. And he lived in hiding for 20 years. And in 1999, he had a stroke and died. I guess he didn't die right away. He died, suffered there for a little while, then had another stroke.
Karma comes back in.
His wife dug a hole in the backyard of the house, put him in a crate, and buried him. And she led the police to it, and they dug him up, and they identified that it was him, and he'd been dead since 1999. But still, that guy got to live for 20 years.
Yeah, fair. He did. You are correct. I just say
with his wife, with family, like,
but a miserable existence. And here's the thing: that's not excusing. This man was a coward.
Well,
he almost imprisoned himself in a way.
But he was out and about. But if people would come by, he'd hide. Whatever.
Yeah, he's a garbage. He's a human garbage tin.
But it is frustrating.
Human garbage. Bin? Human garbage. He's a human garbage bin. That's the words I'm looking for.
He's dead, but he never went to trial.
Face an ounce of justice. No.
Justice never
was served.
I mean, he got to live another 20 years and then die in his home with his wife.
Listen, I just hope that stroke was miserable.
Yeah.
I hope he suffered.
Anyways, that's your story. Terrible, sad.
That is a terrible, sad story.
But it is technically
this
closed.
Was completely senseless.
Well, and that's the thing is we don't understand why he killed the police.
The guy could have ran his ID, and that would have been. I mean, it.
I don't know. So yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, that is our episode, season 2, episode 11 of Unsolved Mysteries. Ben, are you ready for your question?
Yes.
Okay. I got this from one of our fellow podcast people. She put it up on her Instagram. I thought it was Primetime Crime put this up on their Instagram, and the responses were hilarious. So I'd love to know yours. Safety and legality issues don't pertain to this question.
Safety and legality.
Well, because I'm going to ask you, if you could own any animal in the whole wide world as a pet, there's no concern of safety. It's not going to eat you in your sleep or whatever. We're not going to have a Tiger King issue here. And legally, it's perfectly legal, ethical, all the things. What animal would it be?
Okay. 2.
Oh, okay. We've got 2, which is, all right.
I am fascinated by crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
I love them. I hate snakes.
I tried to go on a crocodile adventure when we went to Florida. I wanted to go looking for alligators.
No, I think they're fascinating creatures. That does not mean I want to be next to them.
I do.
Because
I tried to find where we could go on a hike that we would most likely encounter an alligator, and you didn't want to go.
Crocodile or alligator, either one.
Mm-hmm.
But you're telling me, like, all of a sudden it was domesticated and it would, like...
And it is friendly.
It would hang out in my pool.
It can hang out in the pool.
I
Yeah.
would 100%. But I am fascinated by them.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way they kill and the way they just sit in water so motionless. It is so creepy, but so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But they are also terrifying in that aspect.
I think they're so sweet.
No, they're not sweet. They eat people and that. But I've always, since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated with them. I think they're super cool creatures. I love seeing them at the zoo, but if I encountered one in real life, it would be a terrifying experience. So don't want to do that.
Okay, what's your second one?
A monkey.
A monkey.
Who would? I mean, they're little people.
Fair.
And
those little spider monkeys at the Tucson Zoo are so funny.
They're awesome. They got personality. I think it would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. Those are my 2. All right. I know you are going to say pretty much all of
I was
them.
going to say.
Every animal.
Is there an animal? I guess the question for you is there an animal that you would not care to have?
Snakes. I hate snakes. I'm terrified
that's
of
what
them.
I'm answering. I think snakes don't bother me, but I just don't think that they're cool.
No, they're absolutely terrifying.
No, little background for anyone who doesn't know. I, for a year, have been trying to we don't have a lot of ravens that live around here because there's no forest, but there's
a lot of ravens here. A ton.
In our neighborhood.
Not in our neighborhood,
no, but in Arizona. In our tiny little pocket of southern Arizona, and I'd say a couple mile range, they're very rare around here. You see them, but there is a mated pair, and I assume mated because there's two. I have everything possible to try to get them. I don't want to domesticate them, nothing. I just want them to eat in my yard and befriend me.
You want them to be regular comer-bys of your house.
Of my house.
They can just sit on the roof.
I've been doing this for a year now. They have landed on my roof in my front yard one time. And I was in Nashville, Tennessee. My neighbor sent me a picture.
You were so upset.
I mean, I was thrilled.
But ever since you've been back.
Yeah, hasn't happened again. So I would have a raven, obviously.
Obviously.
Any big cat. Actually, any size of cat. Have you seen that big, fat, fluffy cat that's just like ridiculous? I don't even know what it's called. Any cat, I'd have them all. A wolf. I would love to have a wolf. I tried to get Ben to let us buy a half-bred wolf, half-dog. He said no. I have no desire to have any sort of aquatic animals. No fishes. They're smelly. But yeah. I mean, monkeys, I'd take them all. I want a wildlife sanctuary. I would be Joe Exotic, but classier.
Would you write songs?
No. I'd have a podcast, though.
If anyone hasn't listened to his latest songs, stop what you're doing right now and go listen to it. It's great.
So, no. I don't do drugs, so there's that element that I'd be a much classier Joe Exotic, and I wouldn't be Carol Baskin either.
I was going to say you'd be Carol.
No. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. That lady's also off her rocker.
I think if you hang out with wild animals all the time and not people, that's it takes you're a different cat.
You are.
You know?
You're a cool cat or kitten.
I don't know if I'd say cool.
All right, everybody. That is our episode. We will be back again with you next week as Ben and I recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.